In the grand history of galactic diplomacy, no species had ever managed to accidentally declare war through their lunch menu. That was, of course, until humans joined the Galactic Confederation. Humanity's entrance into the interstellar community was met with the kind of caution usually reserved for plagued planets. We weren't just from a death world, we were from the Deathworld, a hellish gravity well crawling with apex predators, where the weather itself frequently tried to kill you. Most species evolved on garden paradises where the most dangerous thing was seasonal pollen. Humans evolved while being hunted by everything with teeth, and it showed. The Galactic Confederation set up a quarantine protocol faster than you could say xenophobia, restricting human activity to designated zones on major hubs, which is how Chef Mackenzie Mac Burnside found himself operating Taste of Terra, the first and only human restaurant in the sprawling maze of Galactic Central Station. Mac wasn't a particularly distinguished chef back on Earth. His Nashville hot chicken joint had decent Yelp reviews, and his mama's biscuit recipe had won a county fair ribbon once. But in space, he was humanity's culinary ambassador, the only human allowed to serve Earth cuisine to curious alien patrons willing to sign 17 separate liability waivers. Order up for table 6. 1 beef burger, medium rare, with the works. Mac called out to his assistant cook, a hovering 6-tentacled machine named Grill E, programmed specifically to handle the biohazardous materials that comprised human food. Taste of Terra had been open for exactly 3 standard galactic months. The restaurant itself was sealed behind triple filtered air systems with decontamination showers at every exit. The Health and Safety Commission had insisted, though Mac thought it was overkill. Still, business was booming. There was something about nearly dying that made thrill-seeking aliens open their wallets. Chef Burnside chirped his maitre d', a willowy green being named Frill. We have received notification of an unscheduled inspection arriving in approximately 10 minutes. Mac wiped his hands on his apron. Inspection? We just had one last week. This appears to be from the Weapons Control Division. Frill's eye stalks quivered anxiously. They specifically requested access to your storage areas. My pantry. What the hell does Weapons Control want with my groceries? That question would be answered approximately 9 minutes later when the airlock doors hissed open to reveal Chief Safety Officer Vril IX, a beetle-like creature whose carapace gleamed with so many official badges it looked like she'd raided a general's Christmas tree. Behind her lurked her assistant, a gelatinous purple blob answering to Gloop, who carried what appeared to be a scanner and several containment units. Stand aside, announced Vril IX, her mandibles clicking with authority. This is an official inspection under Statute 457X of the Galactic Confederation, Unregistered Chemical and Biological Weapons Control. Mac crossed his arms. Mon, this is a kitchen, not an arms dealership. Vril X's compound eyes narrowed. That remains to be determined. Mac followed Vril IX and Gloop through the restaurant, trying not to notice how the alien patrons scooted their chairs away, suddenly very interested in the ceiling fixtures. Vril IX moved with military precision, her exoskeleton making a soft clicking sound against the tile floor. We received an anonymous tip, she explained, unfolding a device that looked like a cross between a tablet and a Geiger counter. Allegations of stockpiled chemical agents capable of causing severe damage to multiple species. Look, if this is about the hot sauce incident last week, that Draxian ordered human spicy despite my warnings. His translator was fully functional when he signed the waiver. Vril IX ignored him, proceeding directly to the kitchen's pantry. She began scanning various containers, her compound eyes widening with each reading. Gloop gurgled anxiously behind her, his blobby form rippling with what Mac assumed was the alien equivalent of gasping. This. Vril IX seized a container of salt. Do you realize sodium chloride is corrosive to 73% of known sentient species? Before Mac could respond, she moved on. And this. She held up a bottle of vinegar, acetic acid, used in industrial cleaning and capable of dissolving the exoskeletons of multiple Confederation members. Mac pinched the bridge of his nose. That's for salad dressing. Salad dressing? Her voice modulator hit a frequency that made the glassware vibrate. You admit to coating vegetation in corrosive substances before consumption? Gloop was frantically scanning everything in sight. He bubbled urgently, and Vril-IX leaned over to examine his readings. Ground seeds of capsicum species, with capsaicin concentrations that exceed maximum safety thresholds by 3,000%. She slammed the cabinet shut. This substance is used as a riot control agent on 17 different worlds. That's just cayenne pepper, Mac started. Silence. Vril-X's carapace had changed from its normal blue-black to an alarming shade of purple. This establishment contains enough unregistered chemical weapons to declare it a militarized zone. She pulled out what looked like a glowing red button and slammed it against the wall, where it stuck and began pulsing ominously. Immediately, heavy metal shutters slammed down over all exits, and a deafening alarm began to wail. By the authority vested in me by the Galactic Confederation Security Council, I am placing this establishment under immediate quarantine pending a full investigation. All present individuals are to remain for containment and questioning. Mac looked through the service window to see his dining room full of alarmed aliens in various stages of panic. Some had extra appendages sprouting in their distress, others were changing colors, and at least one appeared to be liquefying. You can't be serious, Mac protested. These are just cooking ingredients. Vril-X's antennae twitched with disgust. Deathworlder, your species' capacity for self-deception is as notorious as your violence. You claim these are just ingredients, yet your own historical records show many were once used as methods of execution. What are you talking about? Capsaicin trials. Salt the earth. Drawn and quartered with vinegar. Your own idioms betray your barbaric history. Mac opened his mouth, closed it, then opened it again. Those aren't... That's not what look. Can I please call our ambassador? Vril-X's mandibles clicked what Mac had come to recognize as the universal sound of bureaucratic satisfaction. Diplomatic channels have already been notified. This is now an interstellar incident. In the dining room, a tentacled Merluvian had wrapped itself around a light fixture, refusing to come down. A group of Fulidota were huddled under a table, their scales rattling in fear. And Frill, poor Frill, had stress molted all over the reservation stand. Gloop oozed up to Mac, extending what might have been an appendage holding a datapad. On it flashed the words that would haunt human-alien relations for years to come. Chemical weapons violation, Class 1 diplomatic incident. Ambassador Eliza Franklin was having what humans would call a day. What had started as a routine morning of explaining why humans sometimes laughed when they were nervous, no, it wasn't a prelude to attack. It had devolved into crisis management as reports flooded in about a human restaurant being designated as a weapons depot. Her holoscreen flickered as she connected to the quarantined restaurant. Mac's harried face appeared, floating next to feeds showing the Confederation Security Council, Vril-IX, and representatives from 17 different species embassies. Ambassador, they've locked us in and are treating my spice rack like it's a nuclear arsenal, Mac explained, his voice tight with restrained panic. Stay calm, Chef Burnside. I'm working on it. Franklin turned her attention to the Security Council feed. Esteemed representatives, this is clearly a cultural misunderstanding. Humans consume these substances as part of our normal diet. High Commissioner Zelen Thorpe, a gaseous entity contained in an ornate floating sphere, expanded indignantly. Ambassador Franklin, your attempt to normalize weapons possession is concerning. These substances have been analyzed and found capable of causing extreme distress or death to multiple Confederation species. With all due respect, Commissioner, the same could be said of the methane your species naturally produces, yet we don't quarantine you for biological warfare. A scandalized ripple passed through the council. Zlenthorpe's gaseous form turned a vivid orange. How dare you compare a natural biological process to stockpiled chemical agents? Meanwhile, in the restaurant, Mac found himself becoming an impromptu diplomatic proxy as he tried to calm his trapped alien customers. Look, I promise none of this stuff will hurt you unless you eat it, he explained to the huddle of anxious beings. And even then, most of you wouldn't find it dangerous, just uncomfortable. A Zerfian with translucent skin that revealed its 3 pulsing hearts leaned forward. But the scanning device indicated lethal toxicity levels. For some species, yeah, but that's relative. Like some of you breathe ammonia, right? That would kill me instantly, but you don't see humans running around claiming ammonia breathers are walking chemical weapons. From across the room, a crystalline entity chimed melodically, its translation device converting the sounds. Is it true humans deliberately coat their sustenance in pain-inducing compounds for pleasure? Max sighed. Yes, some of us enjoy spicy food. Masochism, shrieked Vril Ix from her position guarding the kitchen. Cultural sadism disguised as cuisine. Back on the diplomatic channel, Ambassador Franklin was getting nowhere. The Security Council had moved from alarm to fascination, peppering her with questions that ranged from concerning to absurd. Is it true humans consume fermented grain toxins for recreation? Asked the representative from Pelin V. You mean alcohol? Yes, some humans drink. And this substance alters brain chemistry, yet is not classified as mind control. Interjected another. Do humans truly ingest the reproductive organs of plants? Is it accurate that your young are given sucrose compounds as rewards, despite its addictive properties? Franklin raised her hands. One at a time, please. Yes, humans consume many things that might seem strange to other species. Our evolution on a high-gravity, high-radiation planet with thousands of competing species led to robust digestion and detoxification systems. On screen, Mac was desperately trying to prevent a diplomatic nightmare as a curious galvanoid reached toward a salt shaker. Don't touch that. Mac lunged across a table. Your species absorbs minerals through skin contact. The galvanoid retracted its appendage with a grateful chirp, while Vril Ix documented the incident as attempted assault with sodium chloride, premeditated. After 3 hours of increasingly circular arguments, during which Mac had to prevent 2 more tastings in one Merluvian's attempt to flush the toxins down a drainage system, Ambassador Franklin finally found an opening. Esteemed Council, I propose a solution. A practical demonstration of these substances' intended purpose under controlled conditions, with volunteer participants. High Commissioner Zlenthorpe wobbled uncertainly. You suggest a public consumption of these agents? Exactly. Chef Burnside will prepare a traditional human meal, showcasing these ingredients' cultural significance. Any being curious enough may observe or even participate. Vril X's mandibles clicked rapidly. This is unprecedented, unethical. Who would volunteer too? I shall participate, came an unexpected voice. Everyone turned to see the Zerfian with the visible hearts. My species has 3 backup digestive systems. I am scientifically curious. A murmur spread through both the council and the restaurant. Suddenly, culinary diplomacy seemed possible. This is absolutely insane, Mac muttered as he tied his apron strings. I'm cooking dinner to prevent an interstellar incident. Ambassador Franklin's hologram flickered beside him in the kitchen. Not just dinner, Mac. The most important meal in human history. No pressure. Right, no pressure. Just cooking for aliens who think my black pepper is weapons-grade contraband. The terms had been negotiated over 6 exhausting hours. Mac would prepare a 5-course human meal for 5 volunteer aliens from different biological classifications. The dishes would progress from mild to what humans considered moderately spiced, nothing even approaching Earth spicy. Each volunteer would be medically monitored, with emergency response teams standing by. If all 5 survived without requiring hospitalization, the restaurant would be declassified as a weapons depot. Vril Ikes had insisted on additional safety protocols that made the kitchen look like a hazmat lab. Mac was fitted with a containment suit that made him look like a marshmallow with arms. Each ingredient had to be scanned, documented, and approved before use, with Gloop hovering anxiously nearby, ready to neutralize anything deemed too dangerous. Chef Burnside, Vril Ikes approached, her carapace now adorned with additional insignia, indicating her temporary promotion to chemical weapons neutralization specialist. We have established the consumption arena. Mac followed her gaze to the dining room, where his casual restaurant had been transformed into something resembling a cross between an operating theater and a gladiatorial arena. 5 volunteers sat at a specially constructed table, each in a sealed booth with medical monitoring equipment. Around them, a force field hummed softly. Beyond that, dozens of officials, scientists, and curious onlookers pressed against observation windows. "You've got to be kidding me," Mac whispered. The volunteer lineup was diverse, to say the least. The 3-hearted Zerfian sat primly in the first booth. Beside it was a Draxian with flame-resistant scales, a strategic choice, Mac noted. The 3rd booth contained a hovering cloud of intelligent spores collectively known as Pollux Prime. 4th was a silicon-based crystalline entity named Glint. And finally, most surprisingly, was Frill, Mac's own maitre d', who had apparently volunteered in solidarity with human culture. Ambassador Franklin's hologram leaned close. "Remember, this isn't just about clearing your name. This is first contact on a digestive level. Humanity's place in the galactic community could depend on these 5 meals." "So, no pressure," Mac repeated. Vril Ikes approached with a datapad. "Your proposed menu must be approved before preparation begins. Bear in mind that any attempt to minimize toxicity levels will be detected and considered an admission of weaponization." Mac took a deep breath and handed over his planned menu. Course 1, simple garden salad with olive oil and mild vinaigrette. Course 2, tomato soup with basil and a hint of black pepper. Course 3, garlic bread with a touch of sea salt. Course 4, mild vegetable curry with basmati rice. Course 5, vanilla ice cream with a light drizzle of honey. Vril Ikes studied the list, her antennae twitching with suspicion. This black pepper contains piperine, a compound used as an insecticide on no fewer than 12 worlds. It enhances flavor, Mac explained for what felt like the 1000th time. And this garlicin, our scanners indicate it contains a lecin, which causes cellular disruption in multiple carbon-based life forms. It makes bread taste good. Vril Ikes' compound eyes narrowed. "Very well. But each ingredient will be measured to the microgram, and I shall personally verify every addition." As Mac began preparing the first course under Vril Ikes' obsessive scrutiny, he couldn't help but feel like he was diffusing a bomb rather than making a salad. Gloop hovered nearby, scanners at the ready, gurgling nervously whenever Mac reached for the olive oil. For the 1000th time, Gloop, olive oil is just pressed fruit juice. Gloop bubbled unconvincingly and noted something on his datapad. In the observation area, Ambassador Franklin was conducting damage control with the gathered officials. "Think of this as an opportunity for unprecedented xenogastronomic research," she suggested, putting a scientific spin on what was essentially watching aliens eat a salad. The first course was finally approved, scanned one last time, and delivered to the volunteers. The entire room held its breath as 5 different alien physiologies encountered human salad for the first time. The first forkful of salad going into the Exerfian's mouth was broadcast in slow motion on screens throughout the restaurant. Medical readouts flashed as its 3 hearts momentarily beat in sync, then returned to their normal alternating rhythm. "I am detecting flavor," the Exerfian announced, sounding surprised. "Complex, yet not immediately destructive to my cellular structure." Frill was next, cautiously nibbling at a lettuce leaf. Her eye stalks wiggled with unexpected pleasure. "There is a freshness. The vinegar provides acidity that actually complements our alkaline biology." The Draxian approached the salad with more confidence, given his species' natural resistance to most toxins. He shoveled a large bite into his tooth-lined maw, then froze. Everyone tensed. "This is disappointingly benign," he finally declared. "I was promised dangerous human food." Mac couldn't help but smile as he prepared the second course. "Just wait till we get to the curry, buddy." The intelligent spore cloud had the most unique reaction, hovering over the salad and slowly absorbing nutrients through a specialized field. "We sense approximately 217 distinct molecular compounds in this preparation," it communicated. "Fascinating diversity for a non-weaponized substance." Only Glint, the crystalline entity, showed hesitation. "My species does not traditionally consume organic matter," it chimed melodically. "You can just observe," Mac called out. "No pressure." "Negative. I have volunteered as a galactic scientist. I shall participate fully." With that, Glint extended a crystalline appendage that vibrated at high frequency, apparently breaking down the salad into component elements which were then absorbed into its lattice structure. "Curious. I am detecting mineral content that may actually be beneficial to my composition." As the meal progressed to the second course, Vrillix became increasingly agitated. Each bite taken without disaster seemed to personally offend her. When the tomato soup was served, she hovered over Mac like an anxious helicopter parent. "Solanine is a known neurotoxin," she protested as Mac pureed the tomatoes. "Not in these quantities," he countered, adding a carefully measured pinch of black pepper. The soup course created a minor sensation when the Draxian, after consuming it, briefly exhaled a small flame. Rather than cause panic, this delighted the observers. "Temperature regulation response," declared an excited xenobiologist. "The capsaicin triggers a thermal defense mechanism." "I can breathe fire," the Draxian announced proudly, attempting to reproduce the effect by taking another spoonful. By the garlic bread course, the atmosphere had transformed from tense scientific observation to something resembling a food festival. The volunteers were comparing notes on flavor profiles and physiological responses. Medical staff were documenting everything with barely concealed enthusiasm. "The sodium chloride creates an interesting electrical conductivity in my outer layers," Glint chimed, its crystalline structure now faintly glowing from the salt content. The curry course proved the most dramatic. Mac had prepared it as mild by human standards, using just enough cumin, turmeric, and the barest hint of chili to provide flavor without overwhelming alien palates. "Is this pain?" asked the Exerfian, its hearts beating faster. "It is unpleasant, yet somehow compelling. I wish to experience more." Frill's skin had changed from green to a vibrant purple. "There is a chemical reaction occurring in my tertiary stomach. It is pleasurable." The Draxian was now breathing steady flames with each exhalation, to the delight of the observers who had begun recording the phenomenon. Even Gloop, who had maintained professional distance throughout, could be seen vibrating slightly toward the curry's aroma, his gelatinous form stretching unconsciously toward the pot. Vril IX watched in horror as her carefully documented chemical weapons demonstration devolved into what looked suspiciously like a successful dinner party. When the final course of vanilla ice cream was served, she made one last desperate attempt. The rapid temperature change could cause systemic shock. She protested. But it was too late. The Xerfian was already experiencing its first brain freeze, all three hearts momentarily stopping before restarting with what appeared to be the alien equivalent of giggles. Cold, pain, sweet, incredible, it exclaimed, immediately taking another bite. As the meal concluded, medical staff conducted final examinations of all 5 volunteers. Their verdict was unanimous: no permanent damage, no toxicity, and most surprisingly, several positive physiological responses. The capsaicin appears to have beneficial antimicrobial properties for the Draxian respiratory system, reported one doctor. The crystalline entity has incorporated trace minerals from the meal into its structure, resulting in a 3% increase in lattice strength, noted another. Ambassador Franklin couldn't hide her smug smile as she addressed the gathered officials. As demonstrated, these substances are not weapons, but cultural staples with complex histories and purposes. We request immediate reclassification and the release of Chef Burnside's establishment from quarantine. Even Vril Ikes couldn't argue with the evidence, though her mandibles clicked with unmistakable disappointment. 3 standard galactic months after what became known as the Spice Incident, Taste of Terra had a line of curious aliens stretching through 3 levels of Galactic Central Station. Mac had expanded the restaurant, adding a special section called Danger Dining, where particularly adventurous non-humans could sample progressively spicier Earth cuisine. The Galactic Confederation Security Council had created an entirely new classification for human food items, non-weaponized toxins for recreational consumption, with a complicated sub-rating system indicating safety levels for different species. Ambassador Franklin considered this bureaucratic monstrosity a diplomatic victory, though explaining to Earth officials why pasta sauce needed a hazard label was an ongoing challenge. Mac stood behind his newly expanded counter, grinning as he watched Frill lead a group of wide-eyed tourists through the restaurant. His maitre d' had become something of a celebrity among her kind, known as the first to regularly consume human cuisine and survive. And here Frill was saying, her eye stalks extended with pride, is our famous chemical weapons vault, formerly known as a spice rack. The tourists chittered nervously as they peered through the reinforced glass at ordinary bottles of hot sauce, containers of cinnamon, and jars of pickle relish. Today's special challenge is moderate jalapeno poppers, Frill continued. Only 3 emergency medical evacuations have been required this week. Mac shook his head, turning his attention to an unexpected visitor seated at the end of the counter, Chief Safety Officer Vril Ix herself, now a regular if reluctant customer. The usual? Mac asked, already reaching for the bowl of extra mild salsa and laboratory-grade tortilla chips. Vril X's mandibles clicked with embarrassment. Perhaps slightly less mild today? Mac raised an eyebrow. Look at you, living dangerously. This is strictly research, she insisted, her carapace flushing a soft blue. The Confederation has assigned me to build tolerance to human culinary substances for future diplomatic missions. Sure, research. Mac prepared a bowl with medium salsa instead, sliding it across to her. Vril Ikes looked around furtively before dipping a chip and quickly placing it in her mandible opening. Her antennae stood straight up, vibrating for a moment before relaxing. Acceptable, she declared, though the slight tremble in her voice betrayed her delight. In the dining area, the Xerfian with 3 hearts had become a fixture, now able to consume habanero wings without medical intervention. It had started a culinary blog titled My Hearts Will Go On, a Deathworld dining adventure with millions of followers across 17 systems. As Mac surveyed his improbable success story, Ambassador Franklin's hologram appeared on his private communication channel. Chef Burnside, congratulations on your 6-star safety rating. Only 6 minor diplomatic incidents this month, a new record. Thanks, Ambassador, though I still don't understand why the Flubian embassy sent a formal protest over our garlic bread. Apparently, it causes them to emit pheromones that are equivalent to shouting romantic poetry in public. Cultural misunderstanding. Nothing to worry about. Mac nodded sagely. After everything he'd seen, a little involuntary alien love poetry hardly registered on his weirdness scale. Behind him, the kitchen doors swung open as Grilly hovered out, bearing a tray of what looked like ordinary chocolate chip cookies. A hush fell over the restaurant as aliens reached for their emergency breathing apparatus. Relax, everyone, Mac called out. It's just dessert, not a declaration of war. But as a particularly brave Draxian bit into a cookie and promptly began shooting rainbow-colored sparks from his scales, Mac made a mental note. Perhaps he should rethink the vanilla extract percentage in the next batch. In the grand saga of interstellar relations, humanity had finally found its niche. We might be Deathworlders, but we made one hell of a dinner.